I'm Dennis Anderson along with Pamela Fish, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
We'll talk with the newest state representative in northeastern Minnesota. Rob Ecklund of International Falls won a special election to fill the House District 3A seat.
Well, Duluth Community Action and other partners this week announced an enhanced program to move people up and out of poverty.
And we'll have the week's business headlines and bring you a news file story from 25 years ago.
So it's all coming up next on Almanac North. Well, hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you very much for watching. As you can see, Pamela Fish is filling in for Julie this week. Pam, welcome back. Always great to work with you.
Well, it's good to be here. Thanks a lot, Denny.
All right, well, you're first up, so let's get started.
Okay, here we go. Welcome, everyone. When Minnesota lawmakers convene in March for the second half of their biennial session, one of the newest legislators will be from northeastern Minnesota. Due to the death of David Dill last year, a special election was held in House District 3A. Our first guest came out on top in that election. Joining us now is Representative Rob Ecklund, a Democrat from International Falls. Welcome. Thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, glad to have you. You know, Representative Ecklund, you're new to the legislature, but not to politics. Just start by telling us a little bit about your background.
Well, I've always been interested in politics. I've been very active. I'm a precinct chair for the DFL party back home. I've worked for my union for several years on political activities, helping getting members elected to the House, and also worked very hard on Senator Franken and President Obama's campaign in 2008, and that was a lot of fun and a lot of work. So.
And you have some experience as a county commissioner.
Yes, I was a Cushing County Commissioner for 5 years. And was very enjoyable. It's really fun to take care of your district. So,
Rob, what is your number one priority for your district as a new lawmaker? What do you want for the people up there?
Well, number one, this is a bonding session this year. So, the number one that we're going to concentrate on is the bonding requests that are coming from all the communities. We've got water projects, sewer projects. There's an airport addition in International Falls. Some work at the community college in Ely on the dormitories. It's just a wide variety of requests that are going to be in. Some have made the governor's initial bonding bill, and some we're going to have to work to try to get in. So
you have an awfully big district up there. It's the biggest in the state.
Yep.
And I understand the size of the state of Maryland.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so how do you prioritize some of those requests? You say you have, different water projects, sewer projects, an airport, but geographically, you've got a big area to cover.
Yeah, we do. I like to tell people from Grand Portage to Clemenson, which is on the Cushing Lake of the Woods border, is about a 7-hour drive. But how we'll prioritize it is being a county commissioner, I've been able to work with the other county board members. I know them all real well, so we'll work together along with Senator Bach and build the priorities and what we need to get done.
As Pam mentioned, it is a big area, Rob.
Yes.
Do you hope to be able to visit much of that district in your first year in office?
Well, I spent a lot of time campaigning up there, and I've talked to them, and we set up dates where I'm going to be back up. I was in Silver Bay recently for an open house for the miners that are laid off, and that's another one of my big concerns is the taconite industry.
Let's talk about that a little bit. That is a huge issue in northeastern Minnesota. What are you hoping the state of Minnesota can do for those people up there who are laid off, who aren't working right now, other than maybe extending their benefits? What else can you do to maybe make those jobs a little stronger?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to convince the country that we need a viable taconite industry. We won 2 world wars on the backs of the Iron Range. And this cheap foreign steel coming in is fine for some producers, But if we get into trouble where it's a international confrontation of some sort, those cheap suppliers aren't going to supply us with steel, and we need to be able to get it from our own country. And that's what the American public needs to understand, is we need an industry to make it work.
But some people are saying, you know, it's time for things to change. We've seen so many downturns again and again in the mining industry. And what about diversification in case the mining industry just isn't going to come back?
Well, and there is some cases being made for diversification. I also sit on the IRRB board, and so we see projects every year or every meeting that might potentially be able to diversify our economy. But we still are the 3 T's. We're timber, taconite, and tourism. And I'd like to throw the 4th T in there. I did this campaigning is technology. Technology is probably the next thing that can help with our diversity.
I drove through the city of Virginia last week, and I noticed many storefronts are empty. Many store buildings are no longer being occupied. What's it going to take to get that economy kicked back in? Where you mentioned diversification. What kind of other jobs could there be landed on the Iron Range other than the mining industry?
Well, that's where I think when I mentioned technology earlier, the internet's a tremendous thing and can be a tremendous tool. And there's no reason why we can't have accountants servicing industry in other parts of the city, other parts of the state, or other parts of the United States. And by the same token, engineering, we could have engineers working on some of the storefronts that are maybe drawing plans up for something on the West Coast. That's the kind of thing.
In some way, hasn't technology maybe taken some of the jobs? Because at one time there were 15,000 jobs in the mining industry. Now we're down to 4,000.
Technology has had a big effect on that. I work in the paper industry also, and when I got hired in 1989, there was 1,200 people working at Boise approximately, and there's about 565 there now. And a lot of that is due to technology, because you got to be more efficient to make the product and be competitive.
And there's been talk of expanding broadband and the broadband system out into the rural areas. Is that something that you're on board with?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a tremendous tourist industry, and tourists spend money. If we can get them to stay here for 4 months instead of 2, or 6 months instead of 3, and they can do their jobs. There's people that, in this day and age, you can do your job from a laptop in a boat.
Yeah.
If you have the infrastructure to be able to make it happen. And if we can make that happen, we'll get those people to stay here longer.
Some people would say that to keep the tourist industry strong, you've got to protect the environment. And there's, of course, that push and pull over environmental issues and new mining. Where do you stand with that?
Well, I'm a pro-mining person. I always have been. And I believe that we have the finest regulatory agencies in the world and the toughest standards to meet. And if those two can come together and prove that it can be done, then I'm in favor of it going forward, but not until that happens.
There's been about a decade, though, of give and take, talking about the environment and all of the public hearings on it. Is it time now to get the ball rolling and do some mining up there?
Well, we're real close. The EIS has been out, and the comment period is going on.
And we're talking about polymet now.
Polymet,
yes.
right.
Okay.
So let's see where it happens once all the comment period is done, and see what shakes out through the MPCA and the DNR and the other regulatory agencies. But if they can prove that it can be done right, then we need to move forward.
What's the economy like in International Falls, Rob?
Well, we went through a downturn also up there. We shut down 2 paper machines at the mill I work with, and an off-machine coater, and laid off about 265 permanent employees. It's a little different than the taconite industry. Is the company offered a severance package. So there was about 110 or so of those that took the severance package and retired. I tried to retire, but my wife said, "No, we're not ready for you to retire yet." But anyway, and that's being a little facetious there. But it's the company now is doing well with the 2 paper machines that are left running. We're at pretty much full capacity, and there's been some changes, but most of them have been for the good. So we're putting out nearly the same amount of paper with 2 machines that had been in the past. So
your committee positions have been assigned, is that correct, for the
Yes.
legislature? Can you tell me what committees you're on?
I'm on Ag Finance. I'm on Environmental Policy and Finance. I'm drawing a blank on the other 2. One is Government Infrastructure, and the third one is
Something with mining.
Mining Recreation.
Yeah, okay.
committee.
You're going to be a busy man.
Yeah.
It's going to be real busy. So.
It's a long ways between I Falls and St. Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4.5 hours if I don't have to stop.
There you
Oh
go.
boy, oh boy. Well, lots to talk about, and we know you have a lot of work ahead. We hope you come back and talk to us about how it's going as you start your new job.
Absolutely, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All the best.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks much,
Thanks
Rob.
a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
One by one, service stations and oil companies across the Northland began raising their prices even higher. The Spur station on North Tower added 17 cents to the price of its gas, following the lead of other stations in the area. In Duluth, many residents scrambled to take advantage of lower prices, but by noon, several stations had already made the change.
It's going to be awful hard getting back and forth to work. I work double shifts and drive back and forth twice a day. It's kind of expensive.
I'd be willing to pay for higher gas to not go to war. Yeah, I'd be willing to give the money. I can always buy a smaller car or drive a little less.
I think it's nuts. It doesn't need to be that high.
Since Iraq invaded Kuwait in August, prices have been fluctuating. But as prospects for a peaceful solution began to fade, prices began steadily climbing. Today, as the deadline for Iraq to get out of Kuwait drew within hours, prices soared. Local economist Gerald Peterson says if the situation in the Gulf kind of stays the way it is, you can expect to see a lot of fluctuation in the prices of anything to do with oil, including the price of a loaf of bread. But if war does break out, though the experts agree there will be plenty of both oil and bread, there's no telling how much you'll have to pay to get it. For Evening Edition, John Gagnon, KDLH News.
Thanks to a large grant from Local Initiative Support Corporation, a new workforce development program was announced this week in Duluth. The 3-year grant to Community Action Duluth is designed to help people move out of poverty and into the workforce. The program will be known as Connect Forward and will work to provide skills training to match the needs of area employers. Joining us to talk about the program is Angie Miller, Executive Director of Community Action Duluth. Pam Kramer is the Executive Director of Duluth's Local Initiative Support Corporation, LISC, and Patty Fleege is the Adult Basic Education Manager for the Duluth Public School District. Thank you all for being here. And Angie, this is a very significant grant that you've been given. How many people could this help?
Well, in the first year, we are planning to work with at least 150 people. And then in each year, we'll work with new people as well. So it's pretty exciting.
Now, how will they get in touch with you?
Well, already since the news story aired yesterday, we've gotten lots of phone calls and interest, and so we're already starting orientation sessions next week on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings at Community Action Duluth to tell people about all these new opportunities. So they just can call us and we'll get them all set up.
So what are the requirements, Pam, maybe to be involved in this? Do you have to be a certain income level, age? What? Just walk us through that.
I may end up referring to Angie
Okay.
for some of these questions. But
Okay.
You want to handle that, Angie?
I would say these new opportunities are targeted at under and unemployed Duluthians.
Okay.
And so we don't have like a strict income level, but if you're underemployed and you want to move forward and get a family sustaining career pathway, then this is for you.
So you're going back to school in essence.
Yes, I mean, if you need more training, we can help you with that. If you need to brush up on your math and reading skills, Patty can talk about that and how that's going to work. Yes, it's ramping up people's skills and their abilities to get these career pathway jobs.
Which brings the question, Patty, what kind of classes will be available to people through this program?
Yeah, so Duluth Basic Education initially will do an assessment of each participant, and we get a basic sense of their reading and math skills. And then we go into what we consider a bridge training, which is a 40-hour training that That's industry specific.
Yeah.
So, in fact, if it's about healthcare, we'll be doing math and reading that's about healthcare. And then that adult basic ed teacher follows those students as they go into Lake Superior College training that will help provide them that career pathway.
Sure. So how long would they be in the classes then before they go out and look for a good solid job?
So the bridge training, the bridge portion of that is about 40 hours of instruction, and then the career pathway training with Lake Superior College is an additional 150 hours, I believe.
And hopefully this may include their hourly wage?
I'm sorry,
The
Dan.
people who are trying to better themselves,
They'll be
they'll be
supported
striving
certainly,
for more pay
yes,
at work.
Exactly, and that's what that pathway is about. It's about building on skills so they can become employed, and then in the midst of those employer supports, potentially move forward even further.
Pam, LISC provided the grant, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so how much is that grant?
The grant is $200,000 per year, and it's renewable over a 3-year period. We have worked with Community Action in the past. We had a 5-year program with them, and we know how successful that program was. This is building on that.
Yeah.
But every year there's measures and accountability to make sure that they're hitting the goals and performing. So I'm confident that this will end up being a $600,000 grant over 3 years, and we'll see that performance.
Have any employers signed on to be a partner in all of this?
Yes, there's 2 employers, Wells Fargo and Essentia Health. And they are working with, Wells Fargo is more of a customer service training, and the Essentia Health will have more of the patient side as well as the office management and business side.
Which begs the question, would you be looking for other partners, other business partners?
Absolutely. We are hoping to have more partners. So our 2 training tracks that are identified now are in customer service with an emphasis on banking, but it applies, I mean, every job needs customer service. And then there's this whole career pathway in health. And it includes what you think of as the direct patient kind of care, and then the office and patient billing and enrollment and registration. So it's a very broad opportunities here, and we are looking for more partners, definitely.
Now, there's always an issue about jobs and job creation. So how do we know that the people that are getting trained are going to be able to find jobs in this area?
There's pretty severe shortages. If you listen to our big medical providers in Duluth, they have really serious shortages in certain areas.
Shortages of workers?
Yes, absolutely. In the office types and in the medical, direct medical jobs.
There's also a part of the partnership includes the Duluth Workforce Center, and they've put together a career pathways committee. And so these employers were already involved in that committee, and these were identified as part of the grant process as high need occupations and areas where they wanted to be able to get entry-level people, build their skills and fill positions.
What will you do to encourage people to come on board?
New employers, do you mean, or,
workers?
participants?
Workers.
Oh, workers.
What will you do to encourage them to sign up for the program, in other words?
Well, I mean, one way we encourage people is we offer programming in the evenings. So if you're already working but you're underemployed, these things are accessible to you. We provide childcare during all of our adult education classes. We actually provide also a meal for people. So if you've been working all day and then you take the bus to your evening classes, you know, you need supports like childcare and transportation and food. And so that's the kind of thing we do to encourage people to tap into these opportunities. They're not just during the day.
Patty, we hear often that there are certain technical jobs that we need more workers for. So are you pairing with any of like the technical schools around here or partnering with them for programs?
Yes, so this partnership, like other partnerships that Adult Basic Ed has been involved in, consists of, an organization like Community Action Duluth. ABE provides those basic skills trainings, but then oftentimes those people are going on like I said, into Lake Superior College and having
Yeah.
specific industry training, oftentimes customized training. Sometimes it's credit-based, sometimes it may just be hour-based, but it provides them that foot in the door into any number of industries.
But there isn't necessarily funding for them to go to school in those areas?
This grant will provide
It will.
funding for that.
Okay, so it'll
yes.
continue beyond the adult basic education.
Beyond the adult basic ed, it's provided, and then if they want to go further beyond that initial Lake Superior College training, which may be 150 hours or a certain number of credits, then oftentimes there's financial aid available beyond that.
Okay.
Some people may be saying who are watching the show tonight, I don't have any skills in that area. So there is a skills gap, isn't there? So can you talk to us a little bit about how this program would fill that gap?
Again, part of that bridging beyond developing and creating a broader base of reading and math skills, we also do instruction in basic computer skills, put participants through what's called North Star Digital Literacy Assessment, in which they're able to come out with industry recognized certifications for various kinds of computer training. We go through some soft skill training with them, and we develop the kinds of writing skills that might be necessary for industry-specific jobs.
Okay. Pam, you talked about how there have been programs like this that have been successful, and I'm wondering how you assess, once this program gets underway, how do you continue to assess if it is being successful, if you're getting a return on your investment?
Sure. We, the program that we operated with Community Action over the last 5 years, both of these programs were federally funded, and they're a part of the national LISC system that's working with a number of communities. This program has been tested with others on a demonstration basis and proven to be a success. There's also a tool that's called Efforts to Outcomes, and it tracks every participant. It's a very specific computer system that will show what services are people receiving. They have access to financial coaching, they have access to a job coach, to someone who helps them access earned income tax credits, child care, other benefits. But it also tracks, are their incomes increasing? Are they saving more money? Is their credit score going up? And it's really a measurement of showing this, what we call wraparound bundled services, that people are, it's not only accessing a job, but it's building your assets and becoming more financially sustainable.
Angie, will there be any costs involved for those who want to plug into this program?
There are no costs to the participant unless they enroll in training that doesn't have the tuition paid already through a grant.
But there's sufficient grant monies that will take care of their costs, basically.
Yes, yeah, their coaching costs and the cost of adult basic ed, all of that is free. Absolutely.
And so once you get this rolling, then you said you've already had a number of people showing interest?
Yes, yeah, we launched really February 1st, but due to demand already, we're going to start next week. So
okay,
yep.
And then you hope to get more employers coming on board. Is there a hope further down the road that maybe you'll be training so many people that you'll bring in more employers to the region?
That would be awesome.
We're looking too far ahead.
That would be great.
Well, and we should also say that there is a partnership with the Duluth Workforce Center where they're looking at, can they create more pathways? Sure. So we would encourage any employers and any interested job seekers or people who are hoping to build their skills to
So can you quickly
to
tell
contact
us, how do people plug into the program?
Yeah.
So they can call Community Action Duluth, 726-1665, or check out our website.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate all of you for
All
being
right.
here
Thanks
and
much.
sharing your story.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the stories making news in the business community. Minnesota Diversified Industries is adding jobs and expanding with a planned new facility in Cohasset. A purchase agreement has been signed to buy the former Technomar building, which would add 110,000 square feet of production space. MDI manufactures high-density polyethylene plastic products such as its signature postal trays and tubs. Blandin Foundation grant funds and money from the IRRB helped the company purchase the plant. MDI plans to hire around 20 employees, with another possible 40 to 60 jobs added over the next 6 years.
Alaris Financial Corporation of Grand Forks has completed its acquisition of Beacon Bank, which has offices in Duluth and several Twin Cities locations. Beacon had assets of $350 million, increasing Alaris's Minnesota banking assets to approximately $715 million. Customers will transition to the Alaris systems in the second quarter of this year. Alaris first entered Minnesota back in 2003. The publicly traded corporation now has completed 18 acquisitions. It specializes in banking, mortgage, retirement, and wealth management products.
The volume of cargo transportation on U.S. flagged Great Lakes vessels last year dropped to the lowest level since 2009, according to the Lake Carriers Association. A major reason for the decline is the 10.4% drop in iron ore shipments, which also slumped to the lowest level since 2009. Not all of the news was bad. Grain cargoes increased by 37%, reaching 350,000 tons. Also increasing were shipments of cement and limestone cargoes. For more on these and other stories, be sure to visit businessnorth.com.
If you have a comment on our show, call now. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to Almanac North at WDSE.org. And visit the WDSE website for the latest updates on your favorite programs, news about the television station, and you can even sign up to be a member online. And Pam, thanks again for filling in this week. Always good to work with you.
It's great to see you as well.
We'll see you soon.
Okay.
Thank you. For Pamela and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Anderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.